Outstanding. Yes. Ah,
How
Gaspard, I just feel bad that I've made you put that on at 9 in the morning.
I actually don't know what time it is. I haven't seen the daylight for years, so
There you
that's
go. There
interesting.
you go.
Yeah.
Well, it is great that we have you have led us into the dungeon to be able to meet you and speak to you. It's lovely. Um, Gaspard, I must ask. Look, let's set the tone. Gaspard, why are you so metal?
Well, I think it's the music of the oppressed, to be honest. So when you lead this life of exile, you only have one path to take, and I think that's the metal path.
What is it, do you think, about the medieval period that spoke to Gorotica so vividly?
Hmm. I've been thinking about this a lot. I think it's a really interesting time in human history where we boasted an enlightenment, but in reality, we were really at our most abhorrent through more oppression and torture. And I think we enjoyed that juxtaposition and that contrast of the hypocrisy of the time.
It is obviously this is a vast question that could be answered in many different ways. But where do you think we would be if we had not, as a species, pushed things so horribly during the Dark Ages? If we had not
Hmm.
subscribed to that oppression, to that model of horrificness, where do you think we would be as a species?
That is a really interesting question. I think it's almost like a child growing up in some ways, where you are constantly testing your boundaries and seeing what you can get away with. So I think maybe it is some sort of attempt uh, at morality, but it really just took the wrong path, maybe for
Mm.
so long. And I think that correction took obviously thousands of years to get it to something a little bit more recognizable for today's society. But I guess it's almost like in life, sometimes you do have to go through some suffering to find a lesson. And maybe that was our suffering as humanity.
Yeah. Be honest, how hard is it to play while wearing cloaks? I feel that your vision would be obscured somewhat.
Yes, it is obscured, but practice many hours and there's a muscle memory after a while. So look, there could be a few mistakes, but to err is to human, of course.
This is very true, and I suppose it is no different to playing with giant curtains of metal hair in any case. So,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, no hair on my face today, as you can see.
so how would Gorod? Obviously, you're in a horrible dungeon at the moment, but how do you think Gorotica would describe the metal scene in the city of Sydney?
Underground, definitely. There are, of course, bands that are doing well. Uh, but I mean, venues close all the time, and as more time passes, although you always want a community, you are also in competition with every other band in Sydney, in New South Wales, in Australia, and the world. So it's always competitive. But but I like to think there's interesting music always being written, recorded, and performed, and Sydney does have some of that. So it's always good to see.
I recently had the privilege of shooting the second Necrosonic Festival. Now, I shot the first one as well. Um, to have an event like this happening in my own backyard is just incredible. So, huge shout out to Kent for organising it. It made me think though, because it's such a showcase of all the incredible and very varied heavy music that comes out of this wonderful country. Um, who who do you see as some of the flag bearers? Because there were bands that I had I was only vaguely familiar with. For example, the band Portal. I had only really heard from Phil Anselmo's shirt collection. I was not familiar.
Yes.
I genuinely did not even realize that this band was Australian. And
Mm.
I just, by association with Phil Anselmo, I assumed they were American. I got to behold their power last Saturday, and I was stunned.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
who are some of the ones that you see as who blows your mind in this
Well,
scene?
when you at the top of that question, the first band that came to mind was Portal. I think
Mm.
they are an incredible force. They're doing something so interesting that not many other bands dare to try, and to be able to claim they're from Australia, I think we should be proud of that. They make Slipknot look like the Wiggles, so I think I think they're a really great band. I've been following them for a few years now, so I recently saw them myself and was very impressed.
And there's the quote that I'll be hitching the interview on. Apparently, uh, I won't reveal who revealed this because obviously their identity is densely protected. But apparently, the front person of that band was throwing up blood under their mask and was still performing at Necrosonic,
Mm,
which is just
wow. Mm,
yes,
dedication.
crush metal. um, Hey, how long have you been working on Daily Grind of the Medieval Age?
Yeah, that's a great question. We recorded it over about a year, and the writing, I think that's maybe a bit more of a John question, but probably only a couple of months. He's pretty prolific, to be honest. So yeah, he presented all the music, and then yeah, over the past year, we've we refine it a bit and we record it, and then he put lyrics and vocals on top of it at the end.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So, what was some of the challenges of creating this album?
Challenges. I think just trying to be better than the first record. So we put out Morbid Menagerie, and a lot of people enjoyed that. But then listening back to it, with a bit of hindsight, noticed a few things we could have done a bit better. So we really tried to focus in on that and take this one to the next level and be more concise and thematic and sonically more interesting as well, I believe.
Hmm. You sound, I must admit, from the way people described your sound when I first heard it, I was taken aback by how modern it sounded. I expected to hear something that sounded a lot more primitive, a lot more, or honestly sounding like garbage. But you have
Mm.
while honoring that aesthetic of the rawness and the ugliness of it,
Yeah.
you've pushed it and you've given it a real technological punch. Do you to what extent would you agree or disagree with that statement?
I would probably agree with that. I mean, that's something, in a depending on how you record music, I mean, the technology just at your fingertips now, it's so advanced. So it's very easy to get a clean sound. It's almost harder now to get that garage sound. But that is something we're actually thinking about for the next record, changing the sound up a bit and trying to go a lot grimier. But for this one, I agree. It is quite a clear recording.
Designer unpleasantness feels like a hallmark of our era, and having this really precise and advanced technology and trying to trick it to do the opposite, which is to make
Yeah.
really ugly
Mm.
and unpleasant sounding music. It's a
Yeah,
balancing
yeah.
act, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I heard someone, I wish I remember now who it was. They called sort of this new genre desktop metal because you're at home and yeah, you can write and record all these albums right at your desk. So it is something during the recording, we tried to make it a little bit more authentic, I guess you could say, and not cut everything up so precisely like you can. And even you can hear just some of those guitar sounds when you're not meant to be playing. That was something I really wanted to do. So the album just creaks and cracks a little bit
Mm.
when normally you would edit those things out. We tried to keep it in so it sounded a little bit more live.
I had the privilege of speaking to. I've spoken to the Cavalera family a few times. Obviously,
Oh,
Max a few times,
yeah.
and I was speaking to his son. So he did a project called "Go Ahead and Die" with one of his children, because of course he did Max Cavalera, and it was so raw that there is literally a period during one of the verses where the band falls out of time and then gets back into it, and they kept it in there, and that just makes me. Yes,
Yeah. Yeah,
it
yeah.
is so nice, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's some of the, I think you can easily remove the humanity from the music. And I think when all that technology started, everyone thought, well, if you can grid all the drums to the metronome and you can edit that guitar part just a millisecond forward or behind and the auto tune, you must be making it better. But I
Mm.
think I've definitely started to realize now people are noticing it's actually making the music worse. And when you go back to your favorites from the 70s, you can actually hear so many mistakes in the music. So, and it never put anyone off there back then. So now it's like maybe the mistakes weren't actually a deterrent of any sort, and removing them doesn't actually make the mu music any better because you actually captured a live performance.
I feel like it might, going forward too, in the age of AI, it might be an important
Mm.
determining factor in what we, consider art made by real people. When, AI
Yeah,
can literally just spit out something that sounds perfect, just like that.
yeah. Once again, yeah, I think it's even more perfect. Yeah, yeah, of course.
Mm, yeah. So just because it's my favorite track title of the year so far, what can you tell me about Nothing Left to Penetrate?
Yeah, I mean, pretty gruesome title. I think it's great to shock. I think sometimes you think there's nothing left that could possibly scare people or turn their heads. Everything's been done. So I think a track like Nothing Left to Penetrate does make you wonder what the author was thinking at the time. But it was a really great song. I found when I listened to the demo, I thought the arrangement was very dynamic. So I was really happy to have that one. But yeah, the lyrics they're pretty gross, but
Hmm.
but I think the track turned out, so why be ashamed of it?
I love it. I love it. So you can metal is a genre that you can inject so many different emotions in. Of course, you can go anger and darkness. You can also do what
Mm-hmm.
werewolves are doing and make this incredibly harsh death metal that is funny as hell. Like you can go in so many different directions with it, and it's so good.
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean that is something about extreme metal. I think you do have to acknowledge how ridiculous it can be, and I feel like maybe like a band like Portal might do the same, even though it does appear very serious and demented and scary. I'm sure the band members know at some point it must be a little bit odd on some level. Uh, and I think that's why people who don't listen to metal, you show them a Cannibal Corpse or something, and their first reaction normally is laughter, even though that's
mm.
probably not what Cannibal Corpse were looking for. But it's just because there is this level of extremity that makes it funny. That's just your gut instinct. So I don't think that's necessarily bad to shy away from at the same time.
we had the privilege of interviewing Brendan Small from Metalocalypse, and
Mm-hmm.
I literally met Brendan that morning for the interview, and I still had not seen Metalocalypse. I have since become a huge fan of it, and I'm, where has this show been all my life, etc., etc. What? Yeah, the silliness of it. Like, are you familiar with the show?
Yeah, I've only seen a few episodes because that was a cable show. I can't even remember what channel.
Adult
And I've
Swim.
only
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, exactly. I've only seen little bits and but yeah, it
Mm.
is funny and I'm glad someone like that was given a platform to make that sort of show. Yeah.
Yes, I highly, highly recommend repursuing
Mm.
Metalocalypse. It
Yeah.
has been, yes, as a metal fan, it's just there's nothing better. So, lastly, what can you tell me about the cover image of Daily Grind of the Medieval Age?
I think that's a really it's we liked for our artwork, at least for the albums, like to look back into history and the Renaissance period to see what people were thinking of that time. And And like I said before, the medieval ages, uh, the imagery is quite intense, and the artwork represented that as well. So I think we found a painting that really represented how we felt about the whole album in the way that there was all this chaos in these vignettes across the painting, and it's this huge epic. But if you magnify into a small part, you can create these little stories of what you think might be happening, whether it's someone dragged across the ground or being drowned, or there's a game of backgammon, and you come up with all these, you know, all these possible reasons for why they might exist. And I think that's like that with our album. There's 18 songs, and we think each track could be a small part of that painting. So
Mm.
it really just summarized how we felt about the music. So it was great to put them together.